Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. The SMB Community Podcast is brought to you by Kernan Consulting, your mergers and acquisitions experts. Since 2006, we've been through over 30 transactions, and just this past year, we've been involved in over 6. So if you're interested in either buying, selling, or valuation information, please reach out. I'd love to talk with you. There's a ton of activity going on, and you can be a part of it. Reach out for more information at kernanconsulting.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I'm back with my good friend, Amy Babinchek. Hey, Amy. Good morning.
Good morning, James. We're at the tail end of the big U.S. freeze as we're recording this. I know all of our friends down south will be glad to see it go, and I mean, gosh, you and I have had temperatures in the minuses Fahrenheit, and that's pretty brutal. So we're in the winter, I'm just never happy to see Canada come to visit. It's like just push that jet stream back up into Canada where it belongs.
All the way down into northern Florida. I saw they got 6 or 7 inches of snow on the beach.
Yeah, I saw that photo. That was amazing. It was kind of a cool photo. It was like white snow and then little beach and then the ocean there. It made a really neat photo. But I feel for the people there and also for the plant and animal life in that area, not cut out for that.
Right. I'm sure it's all melted by now, but kind of came and went quickly. And the good news for you, it was above freezing here in the Midwest. So you normally get my weather the next day. So enjoy that while it's coming. It should be in the high 40s, they're saying, in the next few days. So happy about that. It was so cold. I had a pipe burst in my downstairs bathroom. We have
Oh no.
In the back of the house faces a lake where the winds blow. And thank goodness I was home because I heard it and I went downstairs, shut the valve off right away, and it, catastrophe avoided. If I wasn't here, because I was supposed to be traveling this week, if I wasn't here, it would have flooded the whole basement. Who knew how long the water would have gone?
Oh man, that would have been a mess. I'm glad you were there. Yeah, I was at social media. I was giving some people advice that were concerned about their pipes or live in areas that typically don't freeze like that. And, yeah. So, well, I'm glad it all turned out well for you, and I'm kind of glad it's over too. Our temperatures are already rising, so I'm looking forward to that little warm spell that's coming along.
Well, hey, we got a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the agenda. We've got the question of the week that came in. We'd love to hear from you, and we keep getting great questions of the week. So if you have a question, you want Amy and I to talk about it, make sure you send it in to james@kernanconsulting.com, and we're going to go back and forth on it. But actually, the question that came in is, should MSPs resell computer hardware and software along with your services? Okay, so should we resell computer hardware and software? What do you think about that? What did you guys do at your company?
James, we're going to disagree on this one.
Uh-oh.
So, dear listeners, James and I go over, the podcast before we started recording, and I held back and I did not tell him that I'm going to disagree with him.
I'm gonna run to the closet and get the boxing gloves. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
All right, let's go. Here it is. Well, I do think that you need to sell hardware and software. However, I think you only do that as a convenience for your clients, not considering that as necessarily a profit center for your business. Now, in my contracts, I believe in this so strongly that in my contracts, I specified that we would only charge 10% above cost for any hardware or software that we had bought for them on their behalf. And I did that. To me, it was important for them to know that I was really not in the business of selling them stuff. I'm in the business of selling them services and value. And so that was how I helped make that important distinguishing factor for my business.
Good. Like that. I like that. So we agree maybe more than I thought we were going to. I agree that the MSP, as the trusted advisor, I think they should lead with their core services, right? That's where we make the most money. That's what we want. But I think as a convenience, not just are we going to sell them stuff on top of it, I think we're going to sell them the right stuff. We know what to spec out. We know what operating systems or how to harden the hardware, lock down the ports, maybe image with the right software. Those were kind of the things that I know my company did and clients that I work with and coach. You want to earn their trust as their trusted IT provider. But when you're doing your QBRs, I like asking questions. Hey, what do the next 3 to 6 months look like? You have any renewals coming up on hardware, software? So I do think that you should, as a convenience, that's a great way of saying it, but I think you should also add that as a service, products as a service to what you're already doing for these clients and make it part of your QBRs. And I even have some clients that have, like the corporate standard laptop or the corporate standard desktop or the corporate standard power desktop, the standard server, and they would have price sheets and they would keep it updated. I kind of like the idea of what you said, Amy, and you put it in their contracts. We didn't do it that way, and I probably wouldn't, because sometimes, you have an opportunity to maybe make more margin. But most MSPs always struggle with selling hardware and software because of the internet, and people can shop prices really easily. Some quick pro tips, I would just say, if you do resell stuff to clients, I liked putting distributor part numbers down or my own part numbers down, not the manufacturer part number, so it's easy to drop that in Google and look for the best price. And then I would bundle things together. So, configured and
Yeah,
installed the computer's X price instead of line iteming those out. So it prevents
right.
people from shopping.
We had ours built by a custom builder.
Okay.
So, and it was
Sold
high
white boxes.
quality, high quality stuff. We sold the Nux. We sold, we sold custom boxes, but it was all Intel equipment. So Intel processors, right? So there was no real way for them to shop us. And those machines were a little bit more expensive than, what you might get from Dell or whatnot. And if a client did have a question or, complain about the price or whatever, we would just tell them like, well, we don't require that you purchase from us. We we think that these are the highest quality machines for for the best price, a really good value for your business. If you want to do something else, you're welcome to go and do it. We won't stop you from doing it. This is what you hired us to make a recommendation. This is what our recommendation is.
White boxes had a with it, right?
Yeah. So, of course, there's can be differences in white boxes, just like there can be in name brand stuff. You, you know, you might get the ultra cheap customer that goes to Newegg or whoever the latest low end cost price per place is and tries to buy a machine. Um, but ideally you have a relationship with your client that um, they've come to respect your opinion and trust your recommendations. And they just go with it. And you know, that was almost always the case with our clients. It is about that relationship. And I feel like MSPs are some of them are losing a little bit of that as so much work is done remotely now, you really have to make an effort at maintaining that relationship. And one of those clues for you might be that your clients are questioning your recommendations. It can be a sign of a weak business relationship.
And you brought up a minute ago, regarding the name brand like the Dell, Lenovo, HP. Those name brands, those are always good. Typically they're a little bit more expensive and they do come with good warranties. They're higher quality. Those are good corporate computers. But on the flip side, I do like the white boxes. Several of my clients have a successful business reselling those, as long as, and back to Amy's point, if it's good quality and, there's warranty with it, that's a great solution as well. And it's harder to compete if you've got a custom configuration on a white box solution. So that I like those options as well. And then of course all the switches and the firewalls, we all know about that. But
Yeah. What do you think,
but
James, about the guys that are marking up machines 30, 40, 50%?
well, I don't think I ever went that high with our margins. We made good margins on things that were harder to find and that we added more value. Custom build white box. If you're doing the warranty, you can add more margin to that because you may need to cover, labor for later. I was never a fan of, overcharging and price gouging. Sometimes that's just over the top. But, yeah, I wasn't afraid to mark things up. If it was a hard to get item or they were constrained and I was able to find it or, a lot of work went into building the solution, we would certainly charge for that. But, I would never consider price gouging anybody. That's not good for a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I think it's setting yourself up for being seen as a seller rather than being seen as that trusted advisor, or as we like to think of ourselves as their IT department,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. That's a good point. And actually, I did work at some companies and some of the clients I work with, you have volume purchase agreements, back to Amy's point, where you've got fixed margins set on product purchases. If you can get away with that, get someone to sign that, and they're willing to partner with you on that, that's great, because again, I used to always say it's another form of recurring revenue, that product as a service, get your customers buying product on a regular basis. And, it could be a nice additional revenue stream for people that aren't doing it. So anyway,
Yeah,
there's a lot to
there
that.
there is, at those meetings you talked about, we liked to present them with the anticipated need for the year,
Mhm.
right? So as machines were aging, we would let them know in advance. I said, there's nothing in IT that should be sprung on you. It should never be a surprise, right? Your expenditures are really pretty predictable. And, as long as you've got machines that are now, 4 years old, this is the year to replace them. So, let's make sure that we get, 5 new machines into the budget this year. And we're gonna depend on you to let us know when you're ready to pull that trigger, but just know you need 5 new machines this year. And they appreciated that because they don't understand those life cycles or know what they are or how to predict them so much.
Yeah, and, let me say one last thing on this topic. When we talk about managed service providers, we're kind of talking about the little guys, maybe upwards to 5 million in overall annual revenues. When we start talking about the big guys, the $100 million reseller, the $500 million reseller. Amy, I have a client that's a $500 million plus service provider. They do sell a lot of infrastructure services, so networking gear and so forth. And, they're the ones that with the manufacturer authorizations, you want like trained people, you want the gold level discounts. That's where you do price registration, so you
Mhm.
get a deeper discount from the distributor. price protection. There's a lot of things that apply to the bigger companies listening in. Most of our listeners I know are smaller, so most of what we were just talking about would certainly help the smaller MSPs. So I wanted to point that out because there's a big difference. So, hey, there's a lot of other stuff in the news I wanted to talk about. It's kind of funny, they made such a big deal. I remember seeing TikTok getting shut down. We've talked about that a lot on the shows. And then the day it was happening, you see all the influencers crying, that TikTok, I think we saw the page, oh, TikTok is not working. Hopefully it will be back online. And then poof, I think it was the same day it's back online now or a day later, right?
Yeah, it is. Although they haven't said that it won't still go offline. They gave it a short reprieve, and there's a lot of deal making going on. I keep seeing in the news about this deal and that deal, and I guess it remains to be seen whether TikTok decides to cooperate with any of those deals, or maybe these companies that are putting together deals, maybe they'll just create their own tactic.
Exactly. Exactly. So the TikTok lovers out there, you're good for a while. So you've got a lifeline. And there's more and more chip manufacturing back in the news. I saw, TSMC was promised 6.6 million to put in 3 additional plants in Arizona, and that's the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. But Amy and we've talked a lot about data centers going in, more chip plants going in to really keep up with the demand for AI. There's more and more of that happening. I'm just happy to see more plants coming here in the United States as opposed to us buying it offshore.
Yeah, we got into a lot of trouble by not having enough chips in the USA. So that's opened a market. It's unfortunate that we don't have US companies going into that market. Instead, we've got Taiwanese companies coming into the US. But as we've seen Intel really struggle. They may not survive even. So I'm not sure what's happened with our US chip companies. That's unfortunate, of course. But we also were seeing, we saw a big announcement come out of the Trump administration. I forget if it was day 1, day 2, where they've put together a consortium of the largest firms in the country to say that they're going to be building $500 billion worth of new data centers across the US for the purpose of hosting AI. Really interesting because they didn't say what the government's role in that's going to be, although it was a government announcement. So we don't know what that's going to be yet, but there must be something there. And a lot of data centers for AI. I mean, that's on the one hand, it's an awesome opportunity, probably gets us out in front of the competition. On the other hand, we already own 2/3 of all the data centers in the world. So, um, so anyhow, we're going to have a lot more data centers. And they said 100,000 jobs. And we know those 100,000 jobs don't come from the data centers themselves because it only takes like 2 people to run a data center. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? It's a big empty space in there.
For the channel, it's more and more demand or more infrastructure being pushed into technology into these plants. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Lots of construction. We're gonna have to generate energy for them too, so it'll be interesting to see what the plan is for that, because there needs to be an energy plan to match it. Otherwise, the data centers won't be able to power themselves.
Maybe that's something Peloton should do to reinvigorate themselves and reinvent themselves, and all the pedaling needs to go back into the energy grid to keep up with things. So
I love that idea. I've got a Peloton here sitting right off to my side, and yeah, I can power it back into the grid, that would be awesome.
We'll call it peddling with a purpose. Peddling with a purpose. We'll
Love it.
generate income that way. And unfortunately for me, my gym has a Peloton as well, but I haven't been on it for a while. I do other cardio stuff. So hey, a bunch of other stuff in the news. A couple things I thought were interesting. There was an article out there talking about the PSA and the RMM tools, the big software tools in the channel. And for the first time in almost 30 years, first time in 29 years, ConnectWise relinquished the number one market position to now Kaseya. So Kaseya is number one, ConnectWise is number two. And it looked like both of those, as the 800-pound gorillas, it looked like both of those overall in 2024 have lost market share to a lot of these newcomers. And Amy, you and I have talked about these, but it looks like Ninja One now is number three. Ninja One, I was down meeting with their executives in Austin, Texas, Q1 of last year, and was really impressed with what Ninja One's doing. A lot of clients in my community use Ninja One. So they grew 54% alone in 2024.
That's amazing.
And Enable is now number four. And the other one, kind of that newcomer we've talked about, they've doubled in size. Halo PSA, also known as Halo, they're jumped up now to number five, and they grew 102%. So
yeah, Halo came out of nowhere. I mean, they didn't even have a product for this market, but 3 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. I mean, it hasn't been long. They've just really come out of nowhere and rocketed right to the top. And I think that says a lot about ConnectWise and Kaseya. We are seeing their market share decline. And now we saw that jockeying of who's in number one. When you buy into ConnectWise or Kaseya, it's different today. You're not buying an RMM tool, or you're not buying a PSA tool. You're buying, 50 tools, and you're buying into their system and way of doing things. And to me, it's more like a franchise, because you're committing your business to Kaseya, or you're committing your business to ConnectWise. Whereas the businesses that are growing right now with those huge numbers you just quoted, that isn't the case. And so I think the market is pushing back on the consolidation and the control that the Kaseyas and ConnectWise of the world end up having over your business once you buy into their system.
That's an interesting point. I couldn't agree with you more. And I've always had that vendor agnostic philosophy, at least inside of our peer groups and people that I work with. I don't want to dictate what tools they can and can't buy. Obviously I know certain tools, I have my own opinion, but I do like the little guys specifically for this reason, is they're hungrier, they're more flexible, they're not so restrictive. I can't tell you how many clients I've helped try to renegotiate or get out of these long-term legal contracts with the 800-pound gorillas that I will rename or not name them out loud. But, that kind of stuff just drives me crazy. They should be there trying to help everybody grow, not help their bottom line. So, hey, the last topic I wanted to bring up is Microsoft is back out in the news, and we wanted to bring up something really important that all of you should be continually talking to your customers about. I'm sure you are, because we've talked about this before, but the Microsoft Windows 10 end of life is quickly approaching in October of this year. So make sure you've got your current contractual clients on some type of migration path to get them upgraded, or the equipment replaced, again, back to the hardware thing. Hopefully you're replacing it yourself and you're making a little money there. But something interesting that I read, it says over 900 million Windows 10 devices are still in use. So that needs to be refreshed. So obviously there's a lot of hardware going to be replaced here this year. And then the demand for AI chipped PCs, laptops, workstations, that have faster chips geared around AI because of the explosive growth in AI. They're saying that's going to increase the demand significantly over the next 3 years for new equipment as well. So I thought that was interesting, and they were talking about Intel and AMD and Qualcomm.
It is. It's very interesting because, we're seeing a bit of a disconnect, I think, between, MSPs saying, "Oh, yeah, my clients are still using Windows 10. You know, the PCs are fine. They're doing the job. Nobody wants to spend the money on new equipment. Um, you know, Windows 11 sucks," whatever their whatever their reasoning is, right? You hear the whole thing. But at the same time, the new PCs that are coming out have these AI designed processors in them. What these designers of machines are telling us, and this is what you need to communicate to your customer, all of these AI tools, and we're not talking about ChatGPT. We're talking about Grammarly. We're talking about Otter. We're talking about Zoom bringing AI stuff in. We're talking about Copilot. We're talking about Canva. We're talking about all the apps that they're actually using today that are already AI bound. Those apps are going to be looking for that power to come from the computer in these chips. These chips exist and the developers will design for them. So if your clients don't have them and they're running old hardware, they're going to have poor experiences. They're going to run slowly. They're going to be frustrated. They won't get the productivity out, and that puts them behind their competition, and they won't make as much money. And my philosophy in being an MSP was told my clients and I told my staff, IT has no purpose other than to make business great. And we're not making business great if they don't have the right hardware to do the business with.
Yeah. Great thing during QBRs or your normal sales visits, make sure you're communicating that to your clients. It's a great, kind of plays into what the question of the week was. Yes, you can sell computers and they're, Windows 10 end of life in October. That's a great reason. And you want a faster chips in your computer to run these AI apps. More and more people are going to be asking you about AI this year. And hey, and that actually kind of dovetails into your class. Why don't you tell everybody your exciting class that you've got coming up um, here?
February 3rd.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Right around the corner.
starts on February 3rd. Yeah, I have put together a class to bring for MSPs so that they can add managed monitoring and security to AI applications into their MSP packages. A minute ago, I rattled off a bunch of applications. All your clients are using those things. They're all using Canva, Grammarly, Copilot, ChatGPT, of course, but you're seeing AI come into all of their apps, and they're coming in unexpected ways through unexpected sources. These apps are all coming into these networks not through you, the IT people in charge of IT, but they're coming in through shadow IT. And this is a problem. It's a data leakage, bad security, bad practices, data being saved in locations where you don't have control over, the business doesn't own it. All kinds of issues around this, and this is absolutely fits into the wheelhouse for MSPs to manage that stuff. And in my class, I'm going to show you how to do that and how to use that as a really important differentiator between you and your competition. You can step in. Clients, even though they haven't asked you about it yet, they're waiting for you to take leadership on it. They're waiting for someone to come along and tell them what they should be doing and how they should be doing it and how they can protect their business. You want them to use AI, but you want them to use it in a smart way. So
I'm really excited for your class, Amy, because historically your classes are super technical, and I love the sales and marketing stuff. That's my passion. And you have some of the sales and marketing right there. Again, you being the one educating your clients on AI and what they, how to secure it, number one, and how to apply it in their business, number two. And to me, that's a great differentiator and will help you stand head and shoulders over your local competition. So to me, it's kind of a little salesy sales and marketing class as well, not just technical. So I'm really excited about that. So thanks for sharing that with everybody.
Yeah,
And
there's
how
a
did
little bit of everything in there. So, and, because we're talking about adding something to your MSP that's important going forward, right? We just talked about $500 billion worth of new data centers going in for AI. The opportunity here for MSPs to manage this stuff. Now we're not talking about developers or anything, just the opportunity to manage this stuff is a $600 billion opportunity for MSPs ongoing. And to put that into perspective, the cloud was only half that. So huge opportunity, MSPs, you got to wrap your head around it. Go over to thirdtier.net. That's where you'll see the ability to sign up for the class. It's going to start February 3rd.
Make sure we add that to the show notes. So, all right. Well, thanks for sharing that. We're at time, so we're going to go ahead and sign off. Amy, great conversation today. Thanks for being on, and we'll see everybody next week.